Okay, we're good. Rolling.
I'm going to do announcements, and then they're going to do an invitation, they're going to do a pledge, I'm going to do announcements, and then you're up. And so you need Angie just to hit the record button once we...
No, it's recording. We should have it out the microwave.
Okay, so you'll just take the very beginning out?
Yeah, we can.
Don't forget to get your 50/50 tickets.
Jim, did you get your text from Dina? Nice I really gave this is a little power pack.
She saw me with this all that. She never gave that to me.
Well, see, because I'm special.
Okay, after you do it, one thing I got it out of way over here. I couldn't believe it. They were all right. Hi, you are. Good. Oh, I thought it was a good idea. I heard one word promote us and...
Still collecting for the...
But I didn't ask you. I said, is it okay with you so I can see? So I haven't asked her yet.
Okay.
But I don't think so.
Well, I can, you can drop the check off here and I can pick it up.
One time. Okay, so this is all the kids.
Okay. Yeah, give me a text. Let me know what it is.
Good morning, everyone.
Three city council seats and mayoral seat. We'll split it 4 ways.
Good morning, everyone. Let's get started.
Yeah. You get that? Give me a text. Do you want the cash? Can be.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Angie Anderson, and this is United Republicans for Arizona Town Hall Thursday. Our guest today is Matthew Levitt, and he will be speaking to us about election integrity. Who would like to volunteer to do the invocation? Sylvia. And then Ellen will lead us in the pledge. And after that, Eileen Wilson has some announcements for us.
Dear Lord, bless us. We are here to do thy bidding, to learn how to win this thing. Please give Trump strength. We need him to come back and to help straighten out the United States. Of course, it is in your bidding, Lord, and we are here as your servants. Bless all those in your care and in your need. Help them to see the way. In this we ask. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Eileen Wilson, our events director, has some announcements for us.
Thank you, Angie. Good morning, everybody. So I noticed a couple of things we used to do that we don't do anymore, so I think I'm going to just bring this back before I make the announcements. I just want to introduce to you our board of directors, for those that might not know who we all are. Yale, I think, went into the kitchen, and he is our president, and we have Betty back here as our vice president, and we have Marianne as our secretary, and Doug as our treasurer, and don't take any gummies at all from Doug. We have Angie Anderson. She is the political director and our office manager. We have Val, who's in charge of membership. We have, thank you, we have Peggy, who is our communications director. Judy is not here, but as far as for Peggy, her submissions, if you want to be in the weekly news, it is Wednesday by 5 o'clock, and this upcoming month, if you want to have anything in the monthly news, it's on the 26th by 5 p.m. And you have me as your events director. Did I mention that Angie was the office manager? Yeah. Okay. And then we also have, let's welcome Cheryl Caswell. She is chair, LD19 Republican Committee. We have Betty over here as the secretary, LD19 Republican Committee. We have Matthew for the LD19 Republican Committee. He is in charge of election integrity. And Matthew, I have heard, is going to be running for the second vice chair. We will be very happy if Matthew gets elected for that. So here's Yale. He came to make his appearance. We were introducing people. Okay, so we just haven't been doing that, and sometimes we have new people and you might not know who is who. So just moving forward, I just wanted to give you an update with our very, very busy schedule that we have here. August 28th, we have Hot August Nights. That will be at the Legion on 131. 26th. Sorry. Contacts aren't working. The 26th, 5 p.m. at the Legion. It is $15 a person. If you're interested in going, you do not pay now, just sign up so we have an idea of how many people might be coming. We have Babies Deserve a Choice too, Stand Up for Life, on September 16th from 4 to 8 p.m. That will be in the UR4AZ Event Center. As you know, we are all very excited on the board that we will be having our candidate roundup 2024, moving into the primary. The candidates will be our VIPs that have already filed to run. That is October 28th at the Desert Diamond Casino. There is more information up there as well. You can register online for that, or you can fill out at the front desk. We take cash, check, credit card. We also have a couple other events going on within our community. Cheryl and I do the art of door knocking, and we will now start doing that for the Pima GOP. The first one will be on August 5th. You don't have to be a PC if you want to come, but if you're interested in possibly becoming a precinct committeeman and you want to know what it's all about, or you're a newer precinct committeeman, it will be at the GOP headquarters August 5th at 1 o'clock. Our legislative district is having a really cool night. It's a family barn dance. We have more of these flyers upstairs. We are trying to get young people to become Republicans. Through Tony's connections over here, he has secured us to have a great DJ moving forward. It's down in Sonoita in the fairgrounds. It's only $5 a person, or bring 5 cans of food. Next, very dear to my heart, the Defenders from Community Council will be doing the 9/11 event, and we will never forget, so we gather to remember. That will be a complimentary breakfast. It will be upstairs in the UR4AZ events. It is from 9 through 12 o'clock, and the invited guests are Chairman Dave Smith, Sergeant Betsy Smith, we have Cheryl Caswell, we have the Executive Committee of Pima County, we have the Green Valley Fire Department, we have the Sarita Police Department, we have Tom Murphy for Sarita Mayor, we have Manny Valenzuela for Superintendent of Schools, and we have all of our first responders that will be coming, and we have a very interesting person by the name of Ray, and he was an eyewitness and was at the site there, and he will be showing us some photos and talking about that in more detail. And as you can see, we are all very, very busy here, and we will be having another special program for Community Council when it falls on the 5th Tuesday, and that would be on the 29th of August, and Chairman Smith would be speaking at that. But I really want everyone to start signing up for this. And when you sign up for this to go to our roundup, you will also be given a little note, paper, to vote for who you think here in the United Republicans is the most outstanding man and the most outstanding woman, meaning to the fact that they take the time to either assist with volunteers or just to be that person that you feel is a go-to person. And that's all I have for events. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. All right, with us today is Matthew Levitt, and he is prepared to give us a history lesson on the city of Tucson and how it's become a fiefdom. Matthew?
Just checking to make sure everybody's awake. So we're going to be talking about what led to the creation of the single-party state of Tucson that we see today. Here, how's that? Test? All right. Can everybody hear? Yes. Okay. Come on. There we go. So, to understand the origins of Tucson's one-party rule, we have to look to the past, specifically the environment in which the city of Tucson's charter was rewritten in 1928. The 1926 Arizona State Supreme Court case of Kit v. Holbert, and the 2015 federal court case of Public Integrity Alliance versus City of Tucson. The history behind Tucson's current success and strife can be traced back to its inception by the legendary Father Eusebio Francisco Pino, a Jesuit priest who spent most of his life mapping territory. Oh, I'll let you know. Technical difficulties. There we go. Doesn't have a long range. So he spent most of his life mapping territory and establishing working relationships with tribes, including the Tohono O'odham, Yaqui, and Western Apache in the region known as Pimeria Alta, or High Pima. That is today northern Sonora and southern Arizona. He also established fruit orchards, cattle ranching, was a staunch critic of the enslavement of the tribesmen to work in silver mines on behalf of the Spanish Empire. He founded Mission San Javier del Bac in 1692, which laid the groundwork for the establishment of Presidio San Agustin del Tucson in 1775, in response to fighting between the Pima, Tohono O'odham, Yaqui, Apache, and Spanish peoples after the death of Father Kino in 1711. Because of the infighting and sheer isolation of the people in what would eventually be known as just Tucson, little changed in the region until Mexico achieved independence from Spain in 1821, and finally ejected Spain from recurrent attempts at reconquest in 1836. It was during this time period that Mexico began having violent confrontations with the numerous tribes across the modern Southwest, leading to a negative precedent being set for future European settlers in years to come. The First Mexican-American War can trace its roots to the abolishment of the First Federal Republic of Mexico by dictator General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna in 1834. subsequently leading to war in 1836 when Mexico refused to recognize the sovereignty of the Republic of Texas after discouraging American settlers from entering the territory by banning slavery in 1829. Remember, there's a lot of gray, there's no black and white in history. It was the same year that saw the defeat of Santa Anna's army in Texas, which allowed the Republic of Texas to be born. In 1845, Texas was officially welcomed to the United States as its 28th state. It was also in 1845 that President James K. Polk ordered troops to seize disputed territory in western Texas along the Rio Grande River after failing to convince Mexico to sell it. After a 3-year war, Mexico was decisively defeated, resulting in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848, as you can see in red. That netted the United States the entirety of California, Utah, and Nevada, most of Arizona, and parts of Colorado, New Mexico, and Wyoming, along with a $15 million compensation payment for damages of the war. Needless to say, the bad blood between the United States of America and Los Estados Unidos de Mexico was born. It was the same general, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, who sold Gadsden Purchase just 5 years later, in 1853, in order to prop up his failing dictatorship. As a side note, then Secretary of State William Marcy totally bungled the Gadsden Purchase negotiations, which originally included northern Mexico down to the Sierra Madre mountain range and the entirety of the Baja Peninsula. What an incredible missed opportunity. So the entirety of Arizona and part of Nevada was included in the territory of New Mexico. Concerns were immediately raised over the ability of the territorial capital Santa Fe to effectively govern such a massive region with little to no communication networks established and hostile tribes actively warring against European settlers. It was in 1858 that the new Mexican territorial legislature would create Arizona out of the east-west boundary of the 32nd meridian. In opposition, 30 delegates from Tucson petitioned the United States Congress in 1860 to form the territory of Arizona along the 34th parallel, as you can see right there. The 32nd meridian is obviously in orange, the 32nd parallel is in red. In opposition, the delegates petitioned the U.S. Congress. This was denied due to the already existent Missouri Compromise. These territories, along with the influence of then Secretary of War and later President of the Confederate States of America, Jefferson Davis, directly led to the outbreak of the American Civil War in 1861. A war which was brought about the right, which was about the right of the Democrat-controlled states to continue to enact legal slavery in opposition to Republican-controlled states. A war that has left a bitter divide in America to this very day that is evidenced by our two-party system remaining more or less intact. It was during that war that the Confederate and It was during that war that territories of Arizona and New Mexico became the most western regions to see active combat between Union, Confederate, and Apache troops. Of note, the Arizona Rangers started off as a Confederate group of frontiersmen who hit Union supply lines and protected European settlers from Apache raids. The predominantly Democrat Tucson region expelled Union Republican sympathizers and seized their property between 1861 and 1862. Then, in an ill-conceived notion to entice Southern California to join the Confederacy, the Californians decisively defeated the Tucsonans and effectively ended Arizona's era as a Confederate territory at Picacho Peak in what would become known as the Battle of Picacho Pass. That's the monument right there. Or at least officially ended their ties to Confederacy. There we go. In the aftermath of the Civil War, many Confederate soldiers, Confederate expats, and holdouts from Old Mexico remained, along with Federal Army troops, in the sparsely populated Arizona territory. These groups would band together in a desperate attempt to stop raids by Apache warriors that continued to occur into the 1890s. The town of Tucson later became the territorial capital of Arizona in 1867 and incorporated itself in 1877. Tucson would later charter itself for autonomous governance in 1883 due to its inherent isolation from the rest of the territory. In 1880, the Southern Pacific Railroad Company of Arizona connected the town to the outside world and immediately commenced a flood of immigrants from all over the world to pour into southern Arizona in search of land and minerals. These mainly Republican immigrants to the territory immediately clashed with the predominantly Democratic natives. This culture clash came to a head in the now infamous Earp-Clanton feud that shed light on cattle rustling and corruption within the Arizona territory at the expense of new immigrants and the state of Sonora, Mexico. The frequent raids of cattle and robbery by both Arizonan and Sonoran bandits was commonplace into the early 20th century, fomenting hostilities between homesteaders, ranchers, and miners on both sides of the border. The divide between Mexico and the United States came into the spotlight during the border wars, which were a proxy war resulting from the 1910 Mexican Revolution that resulted in the decimation of the 1857 Mexican Constitution and the creation of the narco-terrorist state of Mexico that we are all now too familiar with today. One of the prominent commanders during this war was Pancho Villa, commander of División del Norte of the Constitutionalist Army of Mexico. Note here in this picture Pancho Villa's opposition, Carrancista General Alvaro Obregón to the far right, Pancho Villa himself in the middle, General John J. Pershing, and immediately to General Pershing's left shoulder is then Lieutenant and General Pershing's personal assistant, George S. Patton. They are all meeting on neutral ground in Fort Bliss, Texas in 1913. In 1916, 18 Tucsonans were brutally murdered by a Pancho Villa raiding party in Chihuahua while traveling to a job site on behalf of the American Smelting and Refining Company, which is still in existence in Tucson to this day. Then, when Pancho Villa attacked Columbus, New Mexico in 1916 in a desperate raid for supplies, the 16th Infantry Division of the United States Army invaded Chihuahua and Sonora in an effort to capture him under command of General John J. Pershing in what became known as the Pancho Villa Expedition. Although unsuccessful in capturing Pancho Villa, the 16th Infantry Division effectively ended the Constitutionalist Army as an effective fighting force in northern Mexico and came into contact with half a dozen different armies from different factions during the chaotic Mexican Revolution, which turned Mexico into a firmly socialist nation without completely succumbing to communism as Tsarist Russia did during the exact same time period. After the Pancho Villa expedition and the Great War concluded, America found itself in the 1920s with prohibition-fueled crime ravaging communities across the nation. The Ku Klux Klan was at its zenith during this time period and was directly affiliated with the Democratic Party and was instrumental in fomenting interracial strife and lynchings across the North American continent. It is in this time period that the city of Tucson rewrote its charter and created one of the most controversial election systems in the world. Prior to the city of Tucson rewriting their charter in 1928, one name remained consistent with the roster of council members since 1920, John E. White. He was joined, at least according to existing records, by his cohorts H.C. Chambers and Frank J. Cordes as city councilmen in 1926. No party affiliations are listed by the archives of the Tucson Fire Association until 1931. However, as we see in this December 9, 1924 edition of the Tucsonense, John E. White was elected as the Democrat mayor of Tucson. This election is strangely absent from the Tucson Fire Association archives of city mayors and councilmen. However, we can therefore surmise that Mayor White and his affiliates were all Democrats. 2 years later, in 1926, White would find himself embroiled in a court battle along with his affiliate H.H. Holbert, another assumed Democrat councilman. The case of Kit v. Holbert accused Holbert and White of falsely claiming Tucson residency despite living in unincorporated Pima County. The Arizona State Supreme Court ruled that, although technically correct, Kit did not bring the matter to the court's attention within the time frame of verifying residency prior to the election commencing. That is why White and affiliates remained in the city of Tucson government until 1928, when White unexpectedly died. Immediately after his death, White's remaining affiliates rewrote their city charter in what appears to be, in retrospect, an effort to consolidate their power. How is it that a charter city can rewrite election law in opposition to the state legislature, one might ponder? It turns out that the city charter system of Arizona, a chartered city, has a great deal of autonomy that is absent in basic incorporated municipalities. Chartered cities are almost self-governing to the point of superseding state law. This is why Tucson is often in opposition to the state legislature and gets struck down by the state Supreme Court whenever it attempts to supersede the Arizona state constitution. As of today, there are 19 chartered cities in Arizona, which include Avondale, Bisbee, Casa Grande, Chandler, Douglas, Flagstaff, Glendale, Goodyear, Holbrook, Mesa, Nogales, Peoria, Phoenix, Prescott, Scottsdale, Tempe, Tucson, Winslow, and Yuma. Now, the question arises as to whom Mayor White and affiliates were consolidating power against. The answer lies within the historic context already explained, which pertains directly to the change from ward-only elections to ward-only voting in the primary and an at-large election for the general. This is a hybridization of the local governance emphasis ward system and the mob rule mentality of at-large city councils. The latter of which always results in a perpetuation of a bureaucracy in which local issues are ignored and party politics rule the day. A recent example is the backslide of the city of Oro Valley into an at-large city council scheme that is producing the same mayor and council being consistently re-elected year after year. With this in mind, we return to the fact that Tucson's Confederate Democrat history and the bitterness that still existed between Hispanic Americans and non-Hispanic Americans in the region. In the research article titled "The Lynching of Persons of Mexican Origin or Descent in the United States, 1848 to 1928, damning reports of extreme racism enacted against Hispanic Americans and Mexican immigrants in Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Oregon, Kentucky, Louisiana, Montana, and Wyoming exist. Arizona alone had 59 mob-driven Mexican lynchings documented during this time period, for everything from murder accusations to simply refusing to play the fiddle. This is a dark, horrifying chapter of Arizona's history that has largely been forgotten. Knowing the scarcity of documentation from the time period, we can safely assume that the number of Mexican lynchings was probably much greater. The population of Tucson in 1920 was 20,292. Of that number, there were 4,261 people born in Mexico. We can therefore estimate at bare minimum 20% of Tucson's population was Hispanic and growing rapidly. This is clearly the most likely group of citizens that White and affiliates were consolidating power against. This point was rammed home in 1936 when the city of South Tucson was formed. South Tucson remains effectively a patch of Mexican culture within the city of Tucson's confines, with only 5,500 citizens and a few square blocks to call its own. The city of Tucson aggressively expanded its territory during the 40s and 50s, enveloping the small town and preventing its own expansion. The consolidation of power was incredibly effective. The only Republican city governments of Tucson occurred in 1952, 1961, 1969, and 1977, all during or immediately after American disenfranchisement with Democrat governance. Since 1979, there have been no Republican majority city councils of Tucson. That is why the Public Integrity Alliance sued the City of Tucson in federal court in 2015. After several appeals, a 3-judge panel on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled Tucson's voting structure is blatantly unconstitutional, in conjunction with a nearly identical case being heard in the New Mexico Federal District Court with identical results. However, then Tucson Mayor Rothschild appealed the case to the entirety of the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, who made an erroneous ruling in direct opposition to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, reversing the 3-judge panel's ruling. We can end the unconstitutional hybrid voting system by taking back the City Council this November by flipping 3 councilman seats and the mayor's seat. This will finally put an end to the racist manipulation of Southern Arizona's destiny, wrought upon us all by the wrath and folly of bygone generations. Here to speak to you all about what we can do to assist in this undertaking is your new United Republicans for Arizona Alert Captain, Matthew Jeske. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Matthew Jeske. I've met most of you already. Matthew called me and said it's a long drive for him to come here from Coronado de Tucson, which I couldn't disagree with. So I'm going to be answering your questions about the alert system that Matthew is pioneering for our state. This is a way to report any election fraud that you suspect and do it very effectively so that they can utilize this information in investigative efforts that are being made. What I'd like to do, I gotta go and get the sign-in sheet. If those of you that are interested in partaking and learning more about the system with me, you could sign the sheet and I'll follow up with you on that. I think that's about all I got to say. Oh yeah. So I got to ask my coach here what we need to convey. Right now, for the Tucson elections, we can place signs for the candidates, and there are some things that we need to understand to do that. There are ordinances in Tucson, I believe, for placing signs, but we'll get that all figured out. And then those of you that are interested, I'll email you all or give you a call. We'll discuss how we can go about doing that.
And we can also participate as observers, just not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we can observe, but we can't participate in that election, the execution of that election. And if you're observing, you'll want to understand the alert system that Matthew's put together so that you can report on any issues you may have seen. Yep.
It should be pointed out, in terms of these 2 young men, that this is all from the community council. That's where it started with our chair, Eileen Wilson, and that this is really what the community council was set up to be. And I want to thank Matthew for really taking the leadership role on this thing, because so many of our folks in this organization, as well as everywhere, have been saying, what are we going to do? And yes, there's been great people with wisdom and all kinds of talents have said, we got to do something, we've got to do something, and you guys are doing something. And we really want to thank you, and I want to thank Eileen in terms of being the chair of this group, and it really now is starting to put the community council together, especially now connected with Boss Dogs, Sharon, and then hopefully now we can start getting some real excitement and energy under here, and you guys and Sharon and Eileen really should be thanked by this entire group.
Oh, sure. Yep. So we have a Pima County Election Integrity Commission that's been put together, and they meet on the 3rd Friday of every month up in Tucson. That's off Country Club. I will email that to you if you sign the sheet here so that you guys are aware of that as well. This coming meeting is tomorrow at 9 a.m. and they have a number of items they're going to go over. One of them that kind of stands out to me is they're going to buy some equipment to sort the ballots that are mailed in. Do you want to go over this a little bit? Do you understand it better than I do?
So It's going to be tomorrow, 0900, at Abrams Public Health Building, 3950 South Country Club Road, on the 3rd floor. This is open to the public. I encourage everyone who can go to go. I'm not going to be able to personally make that appointment because I have prior family engagements in the early morning. But it's going to be discussing Runbeck equipment used for sorting mail-in ballots. It's a contract with the county. For better or worse, it sounds like the county is already stuck in the contract, and even if they wanted to get out of it, they can't. You also have signature verification that's going to be discussed. The recorder's office provide a 45-page document to go over, so this might be a long meeting. Voter rolls to be cleaned up, according to the recorder's office, is just a 4-page document, so you can see where the priorities lie. Let's see, the Secretary of State, at least the person sitting in the seat, is updating the manual on elections. He's going to be providing a draft of the update. So for more information, go to pima.gov/election/election integrity commission for all the documents. And there will be a 3-minute call to the public, meaning every person gets 3 minutes. Although I'm sure they would really enjoy it if it was just 3 minutes total. We're also going to be providing via PDF file to be saved here on the United Republicans for Arizona computer in the office there, a copy of the most up-to-date alert sheets, which are now just single page, and they are only organized based on where you're going to be performing your duties. Regardless of what your position, if you are working at a polling location, you will have a polling location sheet. If you're working in tabulation, you will have a tabulation sheet. And if you are one of the lucky few who is able to work with equipment testing prior to the election, you will have your own sheet as well. That, along with the instructions from the county party and the recorder's office on how to be a poll worker observer, will be included. These are if you're signed up with the Pima GOP mailing list, these are the same PDF files that you will have access to through the email, or you can go to the Pima County GOP website, and they are also available there. Being a poll worker and being a poll observer is very straightforward. In all honesty, I am not able to be a worker because I work night shift at a hospital, and I cannot set aside 3 whole weeks to be on call. I will probably be an observer with the next election, but for right now, our main objective, because none of us actually live in the city of Tucson, is sign placement. This is, believe you me, this is a war against the Democrat Party and their paid homeless operatives who go out and destroy signs. So remember, each sign usually costs upwards between $50 and $150. Every time they destroy one, they would get paid. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's officially the Democrat Party. I can't say that, but I do know that people were getting paid, especially during the 2020 election.
Matthew, can you tell us when you're going to be holding your monthly meetings?
Yeah, so it'll be on the second Tuesday of each month at 10:30 a.m. right here. And for those of you that are interested, this is something you want to be involved in, please sign the sheet. I'm going to make it very simple, what Matthew shared with us here, so we can take action and get moving. You don't have to remember anything, just sign the sheet if you're interested, and put your email. Yes?
I want to make a comment about the meeting tomorrow. That's the Election Integrity Commission meeting. It's at 9 o'clock, and if anyone's interested in coming, I'll be in the parking lot at 8:30. You can ride with me. It's a public meeting. And even though the Board of Supervisors has passed the Runbeck contract, Constance Hargrove is supposed to be at this meeting, and others, and you can still object to it. There is no oversight on anything that Runbeck's doing. There's nothing. And even though many of us complained about that the last time, none of this has changed. It's their old contract repeated. hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we can still complain. And I also complained to Brian Beckel, he's the chair, and even though many of us made complaints about a wide variety of things, none of those were written down by the chair of that committee and promoted to the Board of Supervisors or to others. So we can still come and make your objections, or if you agree with something, come and talk at that meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I'll be in the parking lot at 8:30.
At this time, could I ask, Cheryl Caswell is also a commissioner for the election integrity, and how about you come up and tell us just a little bit?
Surprise.
Yes, thank you. You're very blessed because our area has two commissioners, myself and Thomas Beresny. So you have contact directly with us. I do know that we do address the concerns that are brought to us from the public. In fact, one of the items on the agenda happens to be a report I received from the Pima County Republican Party based on the May election, and they had a meeting with the recorder. The notes taken from that committee meeting with the recorder indicated the recorder said she was having trouble finding the observers to balance the election with the teams because all the workers and observers were changing party from Republicans to Democrats and others. And so I'll be asking questions about that, as I'd like to see the actual numbers and data instead of just an opinion about that, because the city of Tucson just approved their election workers. And you can get that list off the agenda. It actually lists the names of those workers. If you look through that, we had quite a bit of Republican representation. So the city of Tucson didn't have a problem making sure that there was party representation for both. And so that's very concerning for me that the city of Tucson was able to accomplish that, but our recorder appears to be having difficulty already filling that quota. So I do know that the things that you brought to the commission in the call to public, we do our best to forward that information on, not only to the supervisors. Now, I'm an appointee of Supervisor Steve Christie, so I represent District 4 as an appointee. And so, therefore, anything that you can bring forward. And Mr. Beresny is the appointment for the Pima County Republican Party. So it actually creates a full circle of information that we can make sure that these things do get to the supervisors and try to get addressed. The one last thing that we did was we dealt with re-precincting. So there is re-precincting that will be discussed, and some of those involve the very precincts right here in Green Valley. So that has been interesting. I was very glad that Thomas Beresny was able to move the committee as a whole to have the legislative districts and get input from both parties. And so I do know that many of the LDs and others have submitted information regarding how they feel about that re-precincting. And that's something we didn't expect, because we went through re-precincting with redistricting. So this is a further re-precincting. And what they've told us is it's in an effort to reduce ballot styles. Well, when you actually increase a footprint of a precinct, you actually sometimes include additional districts that are going to require that additional ballot style anyway. It's called a split precinct, and when you go in there, that ballot style has a dash to it. So if you're in a different fire district, school district, water district, all of those things will create a different ballot style. So we didn't see a lot of reduction in the ballot styles that would be not created. So we are advising different things with that re-precincting. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes about, and the information has been provided. So if you have any interest, you can get all of this off of the agenda. The Pima County Election Integrity Commission has a website. The meetings used to be live feed. Sharon, I know we had difficulty. I don't think they put a live feed back up. So we used to meet downtown, right there where your Board of Supervisors meets. And all of a sudden we were swept away over to Country Club and thrown up on the third floor, and the meeting is no longer available for you to view online. So you tell me what that means. We all know that that's one of their least interesting topics. They want to squirrel us away. Now I will tell you, the Election Integrity Commission doesn't have a lot of power. The power of our elections here in the county sit and reside with the Board of Supervisors. We are in an advisory position, and so therefore they tend to not address a lot of the issues being brought forward, unfortunately, but we are doing our best to push them and keep them accountable to you. Is there any questions about the commission? Yes, Sharon.
I read on the most recent draft minutes from the last meeting that the ad hoc committee was not allowed to request emergency meeting. And I contacted that attorney for the state asking where is this authority coming from? Do you know if that's a state authority or if it's local with the chair of the advisory committee?
I believe that it would be in the Board of Supervisors. So I know a lot of the bylaws don't address a lot of that, and so the actual authority resides in the Board of Supervisors to allow those meetings to occur. And I do believe Chair Bickle has the ability to also circumvent those meetings.
I contacted the attorney for the state who's over civil, and he was the one who was cited as evaluating all those questions, and so his name was on it, and I thought that it would have been him that was making the statement, but you're suggesting it might be Board of Supervisors?
I'm thinking it may be Board of Supervisors. Okay. I will check into that further.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes?
I just had a statement. I observed signature verification when they did the May thing for Tucson.
Yes.
And when I was there, I counted 4 Republicans that were working. The rest were all Democrat and independents. But I told Dave Smith about it, that we need more Republicans doing it.
So that would indicate what Gabriela Cazares-Kelly was telling our Republican Party. So when you go to the signature verification, there's a few different departments where our elections responsibilities lie. And because the recorder, as an elected, is responsible for the voter rolls, the signature verification process is in a recorder's position of authority. And so it is separated from the rest of the other parts of the election office. And so when you're in there as an observer, the lanyards indicate your party. So a black lanyard is usually a party or an election worker, and then they have red and blue for the Republicans and Democrats. So you can physically observe who is working together. So when maybe someone has an issue or a problem signature, they're to go to the opposite party, and so you can see that by the lanyards that the discussion is happening, and maybe a third person is brought in, such as a supervisor that's in there. So what we're finding now is that you're not going to see as many red lanyards as what we've been told, and I'm going to be inquiring on that. So I've worked in that department myself, and we've never had those issues. In fact, I worked so many hours in the 2020 election leading up to the election. Until election day, no Democrat observer showed up. They only showed up on election day, and we were starting weeks before. So I had already had full-time hours in weeks before, yet they showed up on election day. They also had their phone out and other things, so they weren't given the proper instructions, but they were never admonished or told not to do certain things. The Republicans, though, had eyes on them like, you know, you wouldn't believe. So I'm hoping to check into that more. You know, the recorder is an elected position, so she pushes back and she says, I don't have to do that.
Right.
And so one of the big things that we've been trying to inquire about is why there's no observation in the early balloting process. When you go into those sites, you're dealing with staff. They don't have to have the party rule.
They don't have a judge of the opposite party, they don't have a marshal, and they don't have any supervision going on in there other than staff. So, that is a concern to us as well. Yes, Betty?
Can I go back a minute to just run back?
Yes, and I'll pass off to Matthew because I know he's very involved in that, and I can't, open meeting law, I can't discuss certain things on the agenda as a commissioner, you know, that is not already public knowledge. So I'll let Matthew address that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cheryl.
Where this equipment is concerned, who would we need to go back and pressure to try to get that changed?
So again,
Who holds the money?
again, too little, too late. Board of Supervisors have already approved a contract. Yeah, they're not going to be able to back out of it now. But what we could do is try to pressure the Board of Supervisors to allow observers from the parties in to watch the tabulation by Runbeck. Runbeck is notorious. We are not interested in doing business with them whatsoever. For those of you who recall, during the 2022 midterms, so much was brought to light because it turns out that Runbeck is literally in the same building as the Maricopa County Tabulation Center. So, huge conflict of interest. Runbeck has been in business to create ballots, which is insane because we should not be having that business handled by a private company. That is definitely something, and I am not one for government-run anything. But that's one of those instances where, yes, the government should be stepping in and handling its own business, not a private third-party contractor who is literally directly tied to some people in the Democrat Party. Major conflict of interest. Yes, Dr. Whitnish.
I think also at this point, let's recognize for a moment Angie, who's our political director, because we are talking about Board of Supervisors, and Angie has put together with the political caucus a strategy and a program for actually getting folks down there.
At Political Caucus, we are supporting the Boss Dogs.
Thank you.
The next Pima County Board of Supervisors meeting, where we can all speak and we can pressure the supervisors to allow observers in the early ballot process, is going to be this coming Tuesday, which is June 25th. Excuse me, July 25th. Outside the building at 8 a.m. we have a carpool going up to the Pima County Board of Supervisors.
I actually have another thought. You say you could enter observers in the room. Just suggest they pay those people their extortion money and not use their equipment at all. Like, don't even bother, like, go to Hawaii or something.
That's good. That's good, Matthew. Yes. So I guess you'll be going to the Pima County Board of Supervisors meeting Tuesday. But it really is a very interesting meeting. You get to meet a lot of patriots, you know, who've been going there quite a long time. One in particular, Keith, that I've known for probably 20 years. He has spoken so much, he now has an artificial larynx. I mean, he is a patriot, and he's
very good.
Very devoted.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is a wonderful experience. So join me, all right? Thanks.
Another issue, Matthew, if I can, whether you want to approach it now or before this program is over, is let's take a macro view. You know, there's the debate going on now as to how we should approach the 2024 election. And I know you have spent a lot of time investigating it and taking a look at it, and the work that you're doing is way beyond even what you've talked about today. So I would encourage everyone here to get involved and attend these meetings. But we're seeing now a major push to move beyond one-day voting. We're seeing that. And we know where this organization has been, but at this point our interest is to win. And so I'd like to know your view, perhaps Matthew's view as well, on this whole topic as to where we're headed, what we need to be prepared for, and how we're going to have to get out of our comfort zone in some ways.
So that's easy to answer. We become too predictable. We need to change tactics. Serpentine. They know where to hit us, which is election day. They ran that point home. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to do that to the same extent for 2024, but that doesn't mean we should give them the opportunity. We need to change our tactics. We need people to vote early in person. We need those who have mail-in ballots to take their ballots in on election day and spoil them and take a provisional ballot. And we need to have people...
They don't take a provisional.
Yes, they
ballot,
do.
Take
Yeah.
a regular.
Where I was working, they were doing it with a regular ballot.
Okay.
The law changed.
Yes, Chair.
There
Chairman
was
Caswell.
There was a change between the primary and the general.
Right.
And so at the general, they were turned in and you were given a regular ballot if you were not indicated as already voted in the system.
Right.
So,
But the
Oh,
provisional,
yeah.
going to the provisional table is not a good option for anybody.
Having a mail-in ballot is not a good option, but if people are still using them, then they need to change it. Because the less time that is given to people who can access, handle, and possibly alter mail-in ballots, the better. Yes, Sharon?
One of the other things I was informed about is, yes, you can go and offer your ballot to be spoiled, but you want to make sure the person taking it marks it, because they're putting it in a box, and you don't know where that box goes, or does it go to someone who's voting it. So you want to tell them, I want you to spoil it, and I want a regular ballot. And you are allowed to do that.
Yes, and on that note, they should be spoiling their own ballots, like put a big marker X through it or something. You don't need a ballot worker to do that. You can do that yourself. In fact, the best excuse is, I was using it, I made a mistake, I need a new ballot, so I came in on election day. That is totally legal and acceptable under any circumstances. And in my opinion, that's a great way for you to actually do more research on the candidates, and especially judges. We need to be looking a lot harder at judges and see who is and who is not on the take, so to speak.
That's why I don't like early voting. Look what happened when they came out with that thing in October in 2016. People already had voted for Hillary, and they didn't want to after that.
So this is taking all of our eggs out of one basket and moving them around and spreading it out. So a lot can happen on election day, as we found out. A lot can happen. We need to be way less predictable. Yes, I encourage people to still vote on election day, but we also need to get our numbers up for early voting. It makes it much more difficult, because if they know X number of people have not voted yet, we need Y number of ballots to overcome them. Now remember, ALERT, it stands for Arizona Local Election Response Team. The whole purpose of the ALERT system is to have dedicated volunteers. They need not be precinct committeemen. They need not even be Republicans. We're just talking about concerned citizens who are interested in election integrity. This is how we keep the same people going. We gain experience, and we allow the reporting system to go to a centralized database instead of just you report something to this person, that person reports something to that person, and then everything just gets lost. We did a great job of data collection up in Maricopa County in 2022 with the Cary Lake team. Down here, I know a lot of you, if not all of you, had your boots on the ground and were collecting data. But once you submitted it, where did it go? A lot of you never heard anything after that. And a lot of you, once you submitted your reports, you never got the writing back. We intend to have a centralized database that keeps the reports on file and allocates them with date and election voting center, which unfortunately is the norm here in Pima County and Cochise County election centers. And that's not something we want long term. Yes, Sharon?
Can I get you to go go back and talk about observers, you were saying about how we need observers. I'm very upset about runbacks, and I don't believe they will allow us inside their private space, but we can still ask for it. But I also think we need to push for observers for chain of custody, because they're picking them up. We don't know where they're going until they're supposedly at their final destination. So is your group alert, or does Cheryl know if the county is doing it? I know I've tried to sign up as an observer, but that's, a long way off. But now we have Tucson, and I can't vote, or I can't help with that one, but I can be an observer. So who's telling volunteers to be observers for this Tucson election?
Right now, it's Pima County Republican Party, along with some of the legislative districts within the city of Tucson confines.
Right, but are they also looking for observers for runback, for the chain of custody of everything?
We can't make a move because the County Board of Supervisors have not pushed the issue. We can't do anything until you get Steve Christie, Matt Hines, Rex Scott, Adelita Grijalva, and Sharon, the driver Bronson, to all agree on something.
But as an observer, I'm not paid. Can we not do this individually as a private group that says, I'm just going to follow this runback, whatever they're doing? I'm a private person.
So, legally speaking, the most you can do is follow the truck and not interfere with it, and you can find out where it came from and where it goes. But aside from that, no, you are not allowed to set foot on their property because they're a private company.
Right, exactly.
So again, our team, and this is the United Republicans for Arizona alert, that this is your group, your organization. Although it's affiliated with Legislative District 19, this is your show. So where you decide to take it and what you decide to do with it is up to you. You can pressure the Board of Supervisors, and from personal experience, I can say good luck with that.
Yeah, I agree.
But at the end of the day, we want people who are actively doing the same type of activities year in, year out, who have experience, and all we're doing is making a centralized reporting tool so that in case something does come up, we have the records to just fall back upon. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. All we're doing is just getting better organized.
Right.
I kind of wonder if there's a back door. I'm just thinking out loud. I research a lot of weird things. So, runback, that's incorporated in the state of Arizona. The Corporation Commission would likely have the members of the board. Maybe we could circumnavigate the whole system and write some concerning messages or whatever to them. Not threatening or anything. Just I don't know. It's just completely around the whole show.
Yeah. Of note, for those of you who actively participate in the Boss Dogs, do not threaten elected officials. Do not infer threats. Do not do anything of that nature. That is grossly inappropriate. None of our members have been up to doing that, but I do know that other people have been basically open-mouth and insert foot activities.
Even though we've often said that we don't move the dial by speaking up at the Board of Supervisors, you are providing education by speaking up and saying what your issue is. And maybe we don't move the Board of Supervisors, but everyone who's listening and however this message is going out, your information and your concern educates everyone else.
That's right. One of the concerns I would have is Adrian Fontes rewriting the elections manual. Go and find it and do some research, Google some articles. You're going to find that one of the things he's trying to do, though, is to make it illegal to approach a voter headed to their car and other things. So based on the observer thing, we know we have campaign staff beyond the line, right, beyond the electioneering line, that may pass out cards, business cards and things. I believe this is in an effort to keep us from being able to organize that effort and then to create controversy where people may be charged with harassment of voters because of certain issues. So I would advise you during this process is to read and find out what's going on with that manual, and email, call not only your Board of Supervisors, but because we're talking about state law and the state elections manual, all your representatives as well, okay? So based on what Sharon has said here, as an election integrity commissioner, as someone that's been working in your party for several years now, is keep showing up, keep speaking up. You may not see that dial moving, it moves very slowly, just like the wheels of justice. But you make a difference. You make a difference because other people, like Sharon said, learn something from what you have brought forward. They go home and research it. Not only that, but by you speaking, you encourage others to use their voice. Not others are not as open to speaking. So as much as we can, we need to continue to show up. You need to continue to speak out, and I thank you for doing so.
Right. Courage is contagious. Courage is contagious. Okay, thank you so much, Matthew. Let's hear it for Matthew. Let's hear it for the double Matthews.
Matthew, to the second power.
Matthew to the second power. Okay, Matthew squared. Yeah, Matthew and Matthew, the brothers. Okay, Eileen has something and then we'll wrap it up. Oh, Gail, did you want to say something?
A couple things. First of all, thank you all for being here. We have a nice crowd and this is really great. And we need to keep doing this. We changed the name of our brown bag to Town Hall. And this certainly took that flavor. I think all the board members that are looking at much more of an interactive engagement, which is what a lot of people have asked for. The second thing is, and I think this is very important because we really need to start dealing with why the Democrats, and Matthew, your analysis was very, very good, because I think we could also see they're reviving a lot of that history and throwing it in our face in terms of racism, hatred, all of those things which really are nonsensical. But the fact of the matter, it sticks. And if this was a Democratic meeting, what would happen at this point now, based on networks, is that every one of the people in here would be encouraged now to meet with their own neighborhood. They would meet with their own community, talk to them, so that if we have 30, 35 people in here, it becomes 300. And that's the difference between us in many ways, because we haven't done those things. We must begin to do those things. This has been videotaped. We're going to have it on our website. All you need to do is go to the website, put the link on, and there it is. You can show it to folks, have a nice conversation. We know everyone has an opinion about this. I mean, there isn't anybody that doesn't have an opinion, even if it's no opinion. The point is, then bring them involved, get them involved with Boss Dogs, get them involved with the committee, the alert, and all the work that you're doing. But if it just stays here, it's not relevant. We can have the greatest meeting in the world. So again, go to your communities, go to your neighborhoods, get 5 or 6 people together, and then bring them back. Thanks.
Thank you, Yale. Very good. Eileen?
So the last thing I just wanted to say, as the community council chair, I'm really, really excited about this election integrity group. And here at the United Republicans, I think we're very, very lucky. Because just look at this. We have Angie Anderson as our political director. We have Sharon as our boss dogs. We have Matthew Levitt. Matthew Levitt, Matthew Jeske. And we have a new member that joined our club today, and that is Chairman Caswell. So she is also a member of the United Republicans. So you have all of these wonderful people here that will be a resource as we move forward. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much for coming. Any other comments? 50-50, 50-50, Alan.
All right, stop.
Any more business?